I have 2,800 lumens bashing into my eyeballs. This video will be a review that is open and transparent of Elgato's 4K webcam. Now, I will start off by saying I'm not sponsored. I am just your average 40-year-old guy streaming and trying to make YouTube videos. I bought this webcam based on the videos that I saw online on YouTube, and I believe it was a mistake. Today, I'm going to walk you through what I've discovered about this webcam, and I'm going to show you exactly the problems I found with it, so you can make your mind up whether or not this is the right webcam for you. To start with, this is currently being shot on my Fujifilm X H2S. I've done that so that you can see the differences in the webcams and cameras that I have set up, so that you can decide for yourself what you need to get based on your price range, budget, quality, whatever else it is you're looking for. Let's get into it. I will put in the description below a link to all my PC specs and also the lighting specs that I have. I have a few RGB lights in the background, nothing flash, bought cheap, $30, $40, nothing crazy. The two lights that I'm using for this video are Elgato key light Airs. This key light is set at 30% currently, and this light is set at 15% currently. Together, both of these lights at full brightness at 100% produce 2,800 lumens, which I think should be more than enough if you're doing any sort of YouTube video. But if you're trying to stream, that is impossible to stare at for long periods of time. Okay, let's talk setup and lighting. I will show you right now exactly what my setup looks like and what I'm going to use for this video. So this is my current setup. I run 3 monitors, 2 ultra-wides and a 2K monitor. We have one Elgato key light Air set up there, and we have our other key light Air set up there. This will be the two webcams that we'll be looking at. The one on the left is Elgato's 4K Facecam, and the one on the right is Elgato's Facecam Mk. We'll test both, showing all the settings and everything else that's used and what lighting requirements you'll need for both. This is the Elgato Camera Hub software. It's all updated. All the graphics drives have all been updated. Windows has been updated. All the firmware has been updated. That's all been covered. This is the factory default settings for the Facecam Mk. As you can see, I haven't changed any of the lighting settings. As I showed you earlier, I can tell you right now that the two lights are set at 35% and 10%. That is where the lighting sits as we speak. Now, this camera is a 1080p camera, and we're recording this in 2K. So the quality will be a little bit different as to what you would be if you were doing the recording in 1080p. I understand that. But these are the factory settings, as you can see here on the screen. So everything at the moment set in automatic. We're set in 1080p at 60 frames. And it is currently shooting at an exposure of a shutter speed of 1/60. Now, shutter speed should be double what your FPS is, and our ISO's reasonably low there. It's 407. This is all the factory default settings. Let's see if we can make this picture a little bit better. For starters, we'll take everything off automatic. We will set the shutter speed to 120. We will bring our contrast back up. We will decrease the temperature exposure lighting to 3.9 or 3900K. We will try and increase the ISO till we can get a reasonable color. That's probably not too bad. We'll turn on noise reduction. And as you can see, it's kind of a bit blurry. So I can understand that. So let's see if we can't flatten out. Maybe we'll change a bit of the sharpness to see if we can't get a bit that back. Maybe with the sharpness at +2, our contrast at 60, our saturation at 55, we might be able to turn the ISO down a bit. That's ISO at 400. Shutter speed correct, so we can see my hand moving, and we've got more frames, obviously a lot more light coming in. If we take the shutter speed down to say 60, we'll be able to decrease our ISO. And I would say around, it's personal preference to what you like. I would say that gives us a reasonable picture. That's very clear. You can still see the movement's not bad. It's not blurry or giving us any sort of distortion. It picks up movement quite well. This looks very doable. Again, the lights are set quite high. I would probably prefer, if I was streaming for long periods of time, to decrease the lighting, as I think at 35%, that's still very bright. Let's switch over to the other camera. Here we are at the Facecam 4K. Let's jump into it. As you can see down the bottom, you've got a preview format. Preview format, this is all at default, was set to 2160 at 30 FPS. Now, we are recording in 1440p on a 1440p monitor, so 2K. So let's put that at the settings we've got it at. The lighting hasn't changed, but all of our settings are on auto. We should be getting this in 120 frames. As you can see, in 60 frames, and the lighting, it's shifting and changing as we're moving. This has a f-stop of 4, which can't be changed. Let's take all this off auto. Here is 120 frames a second. Our ISO, let's bring that up to, let's say 400. Okay, 400, we still are getting nothing but blackness. Okay, let's crank that up. Let's crank that up until we can see a reasonable image. I would say that is a reasonable image around there. That is 11,700 ISO. 11,000 ISO with our shutter speed double our frame rate. Maybe a little bit oversaturated. We can turn that down maybe to 60%. We can turn the temperature down to around 4000 K. Our lighting set in standard. Low light mode is currently off. Now it says let's see if we can get that up. So improve your appearance when lighting isn't great, while soften some details. You can leave it off, which it currently is. We can set it to 720p and below, or we can set it to 1080p and below. We're not shooting at 1080p or below, so I believe we need to leave this off. For argument's sake, let's look at 1080p and below. I don't notice any change at all. So I'm going to leave that off, which is recommended. The LED brightness here, that is just the blue LED light on the front of the screen. Contrast, we can try and blacken the darker spots. Right, let's about 56%. Now we can use the noise reduction. Let's set that to high. But as you can see, there is a lot of noise in this image. You can see the noise on my hand. You can see the noise against my face. You can see the grainy image against the wall here. You can see all the noise in the background. To get a good image, we need to reduce the ISO. That's going to reduce the noise that we've got. Now we will leave the noise reduction on high. We will bring the ISO down, let's say to 1600. Now we'll reduce the shutter speed. That is reduced the shutter speed to 30 frames a second. And as you can tell, we are super choppy, robotic. We're very blurry in our movement, and we're very pixelated as the way we move, because this isn't the shutter speed we should be shooting at. Let's put that back to 60, as we're shooting now at the same shutter speed as our FPS. Again, that's not ideal. Ideally, your shutter speed should be double your FPS. What ISO do we need to get this to a standard? We can set the dynamic range to wide, and that gives us this image here. And now we can try and increase the ISO. Okay, so there is probably an image that you could use while streaming. So with an f-stop of 4, this webcam is extremely light hungry. And I'll show you what I mean. We will put this back to 2K at 60 FPS. We will put this on the shutter speed we're meant to have, which is 120. And we'll try and reduce our ISO to 1000 or close to. And at the moment, we haven't touched the lighting. Now I'm going to increase the lighting. Okay. So here we have a nice sort of crisper image quality at 120 shutter speed. We're in 2K at 60 FPS. I have 2,800 lumens bashing into my eyeballs. We have barely 1,000 ISO, but I can't see my monitors because the lighting is so bright. Now, you may think that I'm over-exaggerating with how much light is currently being beamed into my face. I will switch over to my Fujifilm and I will show you exactly how much light is being produced right now. Okay, so as you can see, there is an extreme amount of light beaming in. And even if we turn the dynamic range now to standard, you can see you can't even make, well, I can't make anything out because I physically, I can't see my own screens. And I don't think you could stream like this for any longer than maybe 60 seconds. We'll put that back onto wide. And there we go. We're under 1,000. Finally, we're under 1,000 for the ISO. I'm not sure anyone could stream like this for any length of time, as I feel like this could be quite detrimental. To give you a contrast, without changing the lighting settings at 100%, I will show you what the Facecam Mk looks like. This here is the Facecam Mk with no alterations to the lighting settings. As you can see, it's extremely bright. We'll even put this at 120 shutter speed. Shutter speed is the same. ISO is at 160. And it looks ridiculously bright. We can even turn the ISO down to 100, which is the lowest ISO setting on the Mk you can get to. And I have a clear image, but I can't see. This is back to the Elgato 4K webcam. Very open to your own ideas about settings. Please leave them in the comments if you have mastered the art of what settings you need to make this camera viable, or what lighting requirements you need to make this camera viable. But I have to shoot the rest of this on a different camera. Okay, so we're back shooting on the Fujifilm X-H2S. That's the review of my opinion on the Elgato 4K Facecam. I think if you are in a studio setup and you are shooting a lot of different video footage with studio lighting, softbox lighting, multiple lighting kits, and you're only shooting for a short amount of time, or you're shooting, say, inanimate objects, like you are doing a review of a product or a product review, that camera would be great and cheaper than a DSLR. If you're streaming, I would look at other options. I think their Facecam Mk, which they now have a Mark II version out of, is a much better option at a cheaper price, straight out of the box, a better product. I was reluctant to make this video as there are a lot of videos out on the product, but I also was reluctant to the amount of hate that I might get for making such a video. I made this video so that somebody else wouldn't make the same mistake I did. Go out and watch your reviews on YouTube. Look for the ones that are good and bad, and then make up your own mind. Guys, I've been G. I stream Monday, Wednesday, and Sunday on Twitch at GMC Streams. If you've got any questions, come and ask, drop it in the comments. I'd love to get back to you and have a good open discussion about your concerns with these products. If this video helped you at all, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button. It helps the channel out, it helps us grow and do more reviews in the future. Thanks very much for watching.